Resident Evil 3, just like 2, is, to put it simply, one of my favourite games of all time. But before this opening sentence devolves into a repetitive rose-tinted bumming session, because I did that last time and my ass is still sore, let's get the synopsis out of the way. Our fable starts with the best girl 5 ever, Jill Valentine, waxing poetic about leaving this dump of a town, which is now a playground for every rotting carcass this side of Romero Drive. So she dons her best survival outfit and dives headfirst into the wacky world of survival horror, or as Miss Valentine would call it, Tuesday. And all this wiki bollocks aside, the thing I want to gush about first is Raccoon City itself. And yes, the claustrophobic nature of the previous places Ari has been set were one of the reasons why they resonated so hard, but here there is something oddly freeing, having especially the opening of RE3 set in the town itself, and it gives that feeling that shit is hitting the fan on a wider scale, even though it's just like before with the ceiling we never saw ripped off. And I know I'm starting to sound like a crazy person, going down a pedantic slide like Mr. Plinkett, but the main thing that grabbed me on this replay was the pre-rendered backgrounds and how they drip with detail. Yeah, sometimes a tad too much detail. And still, even after all this time, it blows my mind how essentially a flat image with a polygonal character run on top of it tricks your brain into believing that this is a tangible 3D space. And yes, this was the time where full 3D was still in its infancy, and games like Dino Crisis, which came out around the same time as RE3, was flirting with this idea, but to me, this style, while utilitarian, still does it for me, just as this trend was starting to die. Oh well, at least we can dwell on the fact that this version of Resident Evil 3 wasn't initially going to be Resident Evil 3. After shipping the last game, the director and professional blocker of idiots, Hideki Kamiya, was tapped to headline the next game in the series. But as the millennium was fast approaching and the PlayStation 2 was looming, his initial idea for RE3 was shifted to that newer console. And to truncate a load of information that would just completely stall out this video, this move would delay the project to, well, forever. And knowing that this project was going to be in development hell for a while, series producer Shinji Mikami was scratching his noggin on what to do in the meantime. And oh sure, we had other Resi spin-offs in the works, which could have been pushed into the trilogy, but the problem is all these games were, for the time, exclusive to their respective platforms, meaning their main bread and butter, the PlayStation, will be without a follow-up to one of its biggest hits to date. So, in this scramble, Mikami decided to promote a side project called Biohazard 1.9/2.1 to the next mainline game. Anyway, the further I dig through the minds known as the Resident Evil Wiki, it turns out that Mikami and his team had some chunky ideas for this newly crowned title, such as having a large open city to explore, with enemies spawning in unpredictable ways to keep you on your toes. And stepping back, an open world Resident Evil game sounds pretty cool, if you can ignore the smell of burning PS1. And yeah, you can tell these ideas were just ideas. Oh, hi Nemesis. Yes, if Mr. X was good and had a personality, he would be half the monstrosity as our boy here. And what makes Nem more memorable is that he is the only big bad in this entire story, if you don't count Umbrella and their gaggle of guns for hire. More on them in a bit. And considering the last story was so bogged down with hench fucks stalking the halls, Little Nem's motivation is so clear you could frame it and call it a fucking window. And while I criticise Mr. X for his striking if ultimately lame use of the big twat that chases you thing, this is still that, but dialed up a couple of hundred notches. And this plays perfectly into the gameplay and, of course, the story, where at points during our adventure, you have to pick a narrative lane. And yes, it's basically a watering down of the previous game's scenarios, but here it's a fun way to make a snappy decision and see where it goes. Alright, most of these choices you pick end up with you squaring up with our lad, but I kinda like this fuck around and find out feel to it. But if you do take him head on, you do get some worthwhile treasure, such as F8 sprays and weapon parts that you can combine to make some cool shooters. Also, RE3 has a new mechanic where you can mix gunpowder. Now, before this review, I found this system kinda pointless, and just an awkward extra step to get more brass. But now, even though I feel it's a bit redundant as a mechanic, learning that you can get stronger bullets, which can stagger zombos with each hit, is pretty cool. Also, during this journey, we take a quick detour to the RPD, which, yes, is a reuse asset, but I would be lying if I didn't get a kick out of... Damn it, can you not? I'm trying to get lost in the haze of nostalgia here. But sadly, just like our antag, the story has to get in the way of the gory fun, as Jill bumps into Carlos, a gun for hire employed by Umbrella to save the citizens of Raccoon City, which of course Jill isn't buying. And just like Leon, Carlos falls instantly in love with her. And okay, who wouldn't? But before I debase myself with sympathy, I do like their dynamic, and yeah, the opening where Carlos has thrown his cards on the table made my eyes roll at first, but they do develop a fun connection. Actually, depending on where you go and at what time, you will find this hunk of meat either at the restaurant or at the press building, which once again adds a bit of randomness to the proceedings. Well, for the first couple of playthroughs, and why did I say that? Oh no, no reason. Because we're too busy meeting the rest of his team like Mikhail, who is lying here dying, and Nikolai, who is definitely not a bad guy, no siree. Anyway, we are tasked to get 3 things to get this tram going, so we can make it to the clock tower, which your newly formed crew tells you is their extraction point. And it should be a wonderful stroll in the fuck. Huh, it's all go today. After causing further improvements to this picturesque town, Jill realizes that Nikolai might be evil. I mean, his employees are not exactly kosher to be fucking in with. But forget that, Jill makes it back to the tram, to be met with, well, you know who. And in this thrill ride, Jill makes a split decision to leave her new BF to die, and ends up at the clock tower. Very convenient. And I have to say this while I do a bit of puzzling to get the bell of this clock tower ringing. That was damn cold, Jill. I mean, yeah, he worked for the enemy, but he seemed to be a chill guy. You didn't have to do him dirty like that.
Carlos!
Oh, hey, Carlos. Which is a perfect, if clunky, segue to talk about the puzzles in these games. In the entry, that has the least amount of puzzles in the original trilogy combined. Perhaps I should have planned this better. While they're not complicated, and wouldn't give the likes of Myst or Riven a shiver down their complex spines, the brain ticklers you encounter here are pretty damn fun, and are slightly randomized, which adds to the replayability and... sorry, I'm not going to dwell on that again. But for us casual cockends, it adds a bit of variety. And that's the word that perfectly describes this game, especially when it comes to the exploration of this world. There is a sense of pacing that just feels spot on here, and I love how the game constantly resets itself. From Raccoon City, to the clock tower, to a brief moment in the hospital with Carlos, and then finally in Raccoon City Park and RC's water treatment plant, there is a cornucopia of cool environments that I honestly don't think get their flowers, as most talkers of this game just seem to shit on the clock tower, and that's it. Yes, the quote open world at the start gets narrower as you move in, but that just makes sense to me. And climbing into this headspace of the people who wanted just that the whole entire game, and yeah, it would have been cool, but I'm starting to smell burning PS1 again. I think I'm having a stroke. But overall, the level layout, while not as striking as the first 2 games, has a sense of flow, which expands and contracts with each beat of the story. And I can't say that for the next game in this series. Spoiler alert. But what makes this entire game work is of course Jill herself, and I love her no-nonsense approach. Unlike Leon and Claire, who are basically rubes that were dropped into a zombified ocean and told how to swim, Miss V is fully formed, a highly trained operative that's already survived one horror and is determined to survive another. While she may not have the sassy sauce of Claire or later Ada, or how she's depicted in the remake, she makes up in presence. Sure, this could be due to the technology at the time, where most voice actors were picked due to their looks over, acting skill, but her physicality shines through in all her actions, especially her ability to dodge attacks, which in execution is pretty clunky. It's a small thing, but it says a lot. And in a way, I kind of wonder if Jill was put in the spot where Leon, or say your prayers and inject your vitamins Chris Redfield are now, where the Resident Evil franchise would be, creatively speaking. And alright, I have no point in this outburst, and I'm just thinking about how she ends up in the mainline series, and oh god, I can't wait to talk about that shit. And that leads into the final confrontation. Yes, I know, spoilers, whatever. Where Nemi does his contractuals and turns into a blob monster. So Jill, in her infinite wisdom and surprising happenstance, finds a, I guess, railgun that's just chilling in a water treatment plant, which is here to take down big bastards, I guess? Who runs this place? The fucking Strog? My pedantry aside, this thing clatters our antag, and after being blasted with a high power laser multiple times, this fucker is still trying to get the Jill. And weirdly, I started to feel sorry for it. Because even after all this stuff, this pathetic clump of flesh is still crawling towards her. And the only way she can finish it is pound round after round of a magnum into it. And yeah, it's a cool moment for Jill, but to me it felt like she was putting it out of its misery rather than taking out a predator. I don't know, it just hit me funny. Anywho, after our protag has our Arnie Schwarzenegger moment, Jill and Carlos have to get to the chopper before a nuclear bomb hits the city. You know, the easier to read antiviral solution. And then after being judged for our sins, we are given the first glimpse of the EX files, where we see a short look at Jill's escapades after this incident. And usually this is where I peace out and piss around with the mercenaries mode, which is fucking fantastic, especially when you can earn cash to unlock cool stuff in the main game like infinite ammo. But for this video, I wanted to see the rest of these files, and the only way you can is by beating the game 7 more times. Now you know why seeing the Nemesis get blown away like that hit weird for me. And yeah, this also explains why I went into so much detail with everything else. Because I had a lot of time to think, as I spent a week and a half beating this nugget over and over. Which sounds like I had a bad time, but no, I did quite enjoy it. And playing the game through again with a different outfit was quite fun, especially Regina's from Dino Crisis. But yeah, the final 2 run-throughs to get the rest of these files did kinda kill my spirit. But hey, you can beat the game in like 2 hours, so it's a brief run through the park at least. Which is funny, because now that I've padded that paragraph, let's go over these bloody files and see all those hours I wasted unlocking them were actually fucking worth it. After bumming across Europe, selling his seed like a Redfield branded semen donation clinic, Chris discovers that his sister has been on his trail, but has mysteriously gone missing. Oh, sorry, it seems like our poonhound is distracted by a woman while writing this guff that looks like his sibling. No wonder he's in Code Veronica. After the events of Resident Evil 2, Sherry Birkin is left all alone in a government black site by Claire, who was supposed to be her big sister and new guardian, and considering how her parents treated her, I'm surprised she hasn't got helicopter motion sickness. On the next slide, we see Claire doing what I just said, and yes, this playthrough was completely redundant. Our favourite femme fatale, Ada Wong, unshackles herself from her shirt, as well as her name, which is still Ada Wong to this very day. And I think this moment of titillation was lost in translation. Feeling the guilt of betraying his comrades, big boy Barry Burton hugs his daughters goodbye and springs into action to save Jill and Carlos in a backup helicopter. And yes, Resident Evil 3 has multiple endings, and I actually peed a bit seeing this bearded stud, even though his voice actor sounds like Skeletor on Skunk. Leon gets strong-armed to join the government, to be their little bitch boy. And I also wonder if one of the perks of this new role include free bingo. In this one, we get a shocking revelation that Hunk, aka Mr. Death, has the ego of a preteen troll on Xbox Live, which is funny because if his mother was a video game, she would have been rated E for everyone. And last and the most tedious, Jill, just like Claire, goes searching for Chris, but his galloping knob rot from all this unprotected sex has sent him to a secret hospital after a failed circumcision, and to put an end to Umbrella because blah 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 boring stuff. So yeah, those playthroughs were certainly worth it. And now you know why I don't care for the lore or canon of whatever I review on this fucking channel, because it's mostly pointless. And oh shit, that's now canon, isn't it? That I don't give a fuck. Ah, screw it. No one watches this nonsense anyway. And to put a cap on this, in the grimy basement knife fight between this and Resident Evil 2, I think 3 slightly takes the crown in its made up competition of my favourite games ever. But my neurosis aside, playing it now, Resident Evil 3 has aged like fine cough syrup. And I don't know how to end this video, so